Hey tyers, welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying my pattern called the Sallow Bait. This is just a basic minnow pattern, but I've found that it's been great for pike and for bass over the past few years. I like the natural movement of the schlappen and the rabbit strip, and the UV accent that the Polar Chenille adds is just really gives this pattern a lot of life in the water. You can use just a standard black barred rabbit strip. I've got a bit of a specialized one here where you can change the color up into something a little more olive or even black, and I'm sure you'll have great results on it. Alright, let's have a look at the material list and get started. Alright, let's get a fresh hook in the vise. Today I'm using a Gamakatsu F314. This is sort of my basic bass hook that I use quite a bit. I'm going to be using a 6/0 white thread. And we're just going to start off by laying down a base of thread. And one thing I like to add to some of my bass flies, especially ones with longer rabbit strip tails or hackle tails, is just a small loop of monofilament in the back. And that just kind of helps things not to foul. So I'll just measure that out. And I'll cut a piece of monofilament. I believe this is 30 pound or 50 pound, I can't quite remember. You want something heavy, it's going to support a rabbit strip. So just want to make sure that that is either both at the side or kind of on the top. Just want to make sure that it's not going to move around once we get it tied in. And I like to add a couple loops underneath just to kind of lock that down. Alright, so I'm using a kind of a special colored rabbit strip here, but what I have used in the past is just like a barred zonker strip, just a black barred over white. Well, let me tell you about what I did here. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I found a seller on eBay who had a number of animal prints done on rabbit strips, and so I bought a selection. I think he had something like bobcat, ocelot, cheetah, zebra, a few other kind of unique animal prints. So I thought, I'm going to grab that and we'll see if I can get it cut into zonkers. So I sent the skins to my supplier and they cut them into zonkers for me, sent them back, and now I've got kind of a unique looking set of zonkers. So, but as I said, you can use just a standard black barred over white. Should be good. Okay, so now I'm just going to create a little tie-in point here. So I want about a little more than a hook's length of leather. Let's get that thread back to our tie-in point here. So we'll just lay that on top. Put a few firm wraps. Then we're going to bend that back. Put a couple wraps in front. Next I'm going to take a little bit of UV Polar Chenille, and this is the pearl, and you want to make sure that you get the right end because it sort of has a grain, and I want to make sure that I grab it so that it's laying back so that it's easy to palmer. Now I should add, if you do want to add some weight to this fly, you should put it on before you tied this down, probably just after you put in a thread base. And if I do put a little bit of weight under these flies, I do use a different color thread at the head. So I might use like a chartreuse or a pink or something like that, just so that I know that this fly has weight on it. And then I'll tie my unweighted flies just with the standard weight. That way, just gives me a quick indication of which flies are weighted without having to go through and physically grab them all just to see which one is the heaviest. So I'm just palmering this Polar Chenille, and I'm just pulling all the fibers back as I wrap it. It's the same thing I would do with rabbit or marabou or a hackle. Okay, so I want to give myself a little bit of room up at the eye. Just lock that down. Trim off the excess. So clean that eye up just a touch. And then what I want to do, I just want to separate all the chenille from the top, and I'm going to pull it downwards. And then I can pull my rabbit strip over top. And I want to just give it a bit of tension here. I'm going to grab my bodkin and just come in here and basically find my tie-in spot for the front. It just kind of lifts all the hair out of the way. And then we'll just add a couple wraps carefully without tying up your rabbit strip too much. And we'll come in here, we'll snip that off. One thing, I don't know that I mentioned this, but I actually trim off my tails for the rabbit strips at an angle. Alright. Clean that up a touch. Now we're going to take a piece of white natural schlappen. And I want one that has lots of webby fibers on it. So we're just going to pull those fibers back and tie them in, not right at the point, but maybe about a third of the way in. We'll tie that in, pull back the tip and lock it in place. Then we're going to take our scissors and kind of pull that schlappen back firm. Just roll that scissors down the side so that all the fibers lean back. Then we're just going to wrap. And we're going to pull everything back as we wrap. And this just kind of puts a nice veil onto the fly, gives it a nice finish at the collar. So that looks pretty good. We'll lock that down. So I always try and tie on both sides of the feathers just to make sure that It's absolutely locked in place. And then we'll just add a whip finish. And one more for good luck. And there you have my Sallow Bait. Thanks for stopping by my Fly Tying channel and watching my tutorials. If you're new here and like this sort of thing, why not hit that subscribe button? I'd love to hear from you, so if you have anything to say, leave it in the comments below. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.